1. I worked in a national clothing and home goods store a few years ago for a few months. I worked in the home goods department, but I would get called up to do the register occasionally, if it was really busy. I had just logged onto the register when this happened. The store manager always told us to adjust prices if the customer finds the signage confusing or something, and just to make them happy. That pack of socks that rang up for $5 more than you thought? Okay, I will adjust the price. There were certain brands we could not adjust. Under Armour, Nike, Adidas. Only the store manager could lower those.
I would like to buy these Nike shoes.
Do you have a rewards card with us? I scan her card and the shoes. They ring up around $90.
That's not right. The sign said these are only $20. You have to give me them for that price. It's false advertising.
I don't think they are that price, but I can get a person from the shoe department to verify the price.
This is ridiculous. Just give me the shoes for $20.
She starts getting really hostile at this point, screaming that she spends a lot of money at our store, etc. If it was any other brand, I would have adjusted the price to just get her out of here. I get on the headset and ask the shoe department to come up to the register and bring their scanner with them. I explain the shoe situation. I'm familiar with these shoes, we just got them in a few weeks ago. They are definitely $90. He scans them in front of the customer to show her it is correct.
That is wrong, the sign says $20. I want to speak to your manager immediately.
Okay, I call the manager using the overhead intercom. I use the code word for irate customer to give her a heads up.
Could you show us where you got these shoes from? I cannot believe I have to do this.
She takes the manager and the shoe person to where she found them. As it turns out, another customer had picked them up and moved them to another shelf, which happened to be $20. The shelf they were moved to was one of the chain's own brands, and they were a pair of sandals.
It looks like another customer accidentally placed these Nike shoes on the wrong shelf. I cannot sell you these Nike shoes for only $20. The sign is clearly marked. The $20 is for another brand and style of shoe. I can see how this could be confusing for you. I'm calling your corporate office right now.
Okay, could you step aside so I can help other customers waiting in line?
No, I will wait right here.
Okay. I then moved to the next register and logged on and started ringing up the next person in line. She starts yelling over the phone at our corporate office for around 20 minutes. They told her they could not sell her the shoes for that price, but told her we would give her a 30% off coupon if she used her store credit card. We gave these 30% off coupons all the time. There are a ton of exclusions on them, basically. Can only be used on the store's own brands. If she had asked nicely, I would have just given her one from the get-go. She started grinning and told me, "You have to give me a 30% coupon." She started acting like she had pulled one over on me. Sure, I have your coupon right here. We had a big stack of them under the register. If you get back in line, I can check you out.
I don't want these shoes for $90.
She puts some on the register and walks out with her coupon. The end. 2. So to give some background, I live in a bit of a small town, so it's a lot of people know each other type of thing. But when winter hits, we get snowbirds. People who live near the east coast where a lot of snow hits. And it's mostly elderly people, most of which are really nice. And we have this Target in my town, and I shop there often. I know where almost everything is in the store, and a lot of the employees know me, even the manager. Anyways, on to the story. So I'm driving to Target because I need to get my sister some soup because she was sick, and I really wasn't very prepared to go out for the day, so I just threw on a red shirt and some jeans. Big mistake. I get to Target, get some soup, start walking through the store to look at stuff, and me being a bit of a kid inside decided to check out the toy section, mostly Transformers, big mistake number 2. As I'm looking through the toys, a lady, mid-40s to early 50s, approaches me, and I can already tell this isn't going to end well. She stands not even an inch away from me and asks right in my face,
"What are you doing in the toy section? Don't you have a job to be doing?"
In the most snarky tone I've ever heard from someone, even my mom. I, hating confrontation, say sheepishly, "I'm only looking for something for my stepbrother, and I don't work."
"Why, you must be some sort of man-baby looking through toys. Anyways, I need help looking for something in the frozen foods aisle. Show me where it is, now."
At this point, I can feel my face getting red with embarrassment, so I point to where she could start walking to find the frozen foods. Frozen foods are down that way. She huffs at me.
Aren't you going to take me there?
I say in response, no, I was trying to say a minute ago, I don't work here. This is when she really gets mad.
Don't pull that bullshit with me. Show me where the frozen foods are or you're fired. I know the manager here, and he will fire you on the spot.
Me being 16 and having a short fuse, which I'm surprised didn't light sooner, came back with, oh, go ahead and go get the manager. Also, if you still need your food, the frozen foods are down that way near the back. She huffs off and I continue shopping. Now I am looking through some video games and I hear her stomping her way over with the manager, and I think, oh god, here she comes. She doesn't hesitate to start yelling at me.
Your employee was very rude to me and telling me to F off and other racist things. I want him fired now.
This is where the manager starts to look confused. He doesn't work here, so I can't fire him. And add on to the fact that he's one of the nicest customers to have in this store and has helped many shoppers with their requests. I can't kick him out without backlash. Again, the lady doesn't like what she hears.
Well, he didn't help me, and who cares what people say? I came here for my needs. I want him kicked out now.
Now it's my turn to speak. Lady, didn't you think it was odd when you didn't see me have a shirt that has a Target logo on it? And I was actually trying to help you find the frozen foods section, and again, it's right in the very back like I pointed to. If you didn't start yelling at me and listen to me, you would have realized that I don't work here. She finally realizes what I say and starts to run away. She must have realized that the way she yelled at me, and me being underage, she must have thought I could sue her for verbal abuse, which I'm 99% sure I can't do, and assault. For the assault part, she shoved me to get close to my face. I'm 16 and I'm skinny but strong. I'm on the wrestling team for my school, so I did show signs that I had muscle on me. The manager says not to worry about the lady anymore and apologizes for the whole situation, to which I replied, "It's okay, I just hope she doesn't harass anyone else." Me and the manager laughed a little about how scared she looked when she started running, and that's when I started to go to the checkout. As I'm ringing my stuff up at the self-checkout, I see someone start to come up behind me, because the self-checkout has one of those cameras that records if someone tries to steal something. And it's that lady again, and this time she has something in her hands and tries to swing at me. I quickly dodge and roll away. She takes advantage of me rolling and throws something frozen at my back. It hits, and it feels cold and hard. Turns out she bought Otter Pops, pretty much a frozen icy in a plastic tube, only to throw them at me. By the time I get up, she's already gone out of the store. I'm tempted to run after her, but the part of my back she hit was a spot where I had surgery done, because I got a broken shoulder blade wrestling. And that made it sting, so I felt running after her wouldn't help. Anyways, people now see what happened and run over, and someone even paid for my stuff. I get up and people ask me if I'm okay, and if they need to call the police or call an ambulance, and I say no, I'm gonna go home. I thank the lovely old man who paid for my stuff, and I go home. 3. I work at a clothing store, and each piece of clothing comes with a typical small rectangular cardboard tag, attached to a cloth tag on the inside collar or on the inside of a pair of pants. The cloth tag only has the company name and the size of the item. Each piece of clothing has an additional paper tag that is sewn into the left inside seam. This tag has a backup barcode as well as care information. The paper tag also has a symbol at the base with instructions to cut it off, once purchased, of course. Our policy is that all tags must be attached and the receipt must be scanned, and be within the 30-day return period in order for the item to be returned for a full refund. If some tags are missing or the receipt is missing and expired, the item can only be exchanged. Technically, it has to follow all of the rules to even be exchanged, but our store likes to accommodate and make exceptions. One day I was working cash wrap and a customer, C, comes in wishing to return 2 shirts. I notice that one has no cardboard tag, and the other has the cardboard tag sitting on top of it, but not actually attached. I think no big deal, I can scan her receipt. I'll just scan the inside paper tag to select the item to return. I let her know our policy that she can only exchange the item if the tags are unattached. She looks irritated, but nods and hands me her receipt, When I go to scan it, the return process is shut down, and a message at the top of the computer screen lets me know that the return date on the receipt has expired. That's 2 strikes for her on the return policy. However, I can just select no receipt during the return process, which allows me to skip ahead to scanning the item. But this means that the system will only allow an exchange, and will not give me the option to return money when we get to the pay screen. I go to turn the shirts inside out so I can see the backup barcode on the paper tag, but surprise, surprise, that one is missing on both shirts. In fact, there's no trace of the tag whatsoever, meaning that she did not cut it off but ripped it out of the seam. Ma'am, unfortunately, your receipt has expired and there are no tags attached to your items, so I will not be able to exchange or return your items. She stares at me blankly.
The tag is attached.
She points to the cloth tag that only shows the company name and size. Yes, but the tags with the barcodes and product information are missing. I cannot pull up your order because your receipt is expired. And I cannot scan your items in to exchange without tags and barcodes.
Well, these items are from your store, clearly,
points to the cloth tag,
and I want my money back.
I'm sorry, but we can't do anything for you. You removed all the tags. I indicate where the paper tags have been ripped out of the garment.
Well, it didn't come with a tag there. I know you know this is from your store. You guys know your inventory. So I want a refund.
This is not true, as our store has 2 levels and holds thousands of products, and it would be impossible for me to memorize the entire inventory, but I digress. Ma'am, I'm not denying that it's from our store, but I have no way to verify how much you paid for the item without an attached barcode to match the item on your receipt. Besides, it would be going against many of the rules of our return policy.
Well, I have my receipt right here that says how much I paid.
I'm trying not to roll my eyes at her for being so dense, but your receipt is expired.
I would like to speak to your manager.
For sure, but he will tell you the same thing. I page my manager over and explain the situation, and of course he tells her the same thing.
Well, this is just ridiculous. Your return policy sucks.
She grabs her items and storms out in a huff. 4. So a bit of backstory to start us off. This was back in 2005. I had started working at a popular game shop in October of 2005 as holiday help. As you can imagine, the Xbox 360 release in November was insane. Consoles and copies of Halo flying off the shelves. In the ensuing weeks after its release, I saw many a return of the Xbox 360 console for the dreaded RROD, Red Ring of Death. 9 out of 10, this was caused by people just being extremely stupid with the console. Below is one such story. I should also note that I had a side business of repairing PCs and Xbox consoles, as the store often turned people away for being past the return period, 15 days. So I was making a tidy profit repairing the things for people that didn't want to wait for a warranty return, and educating people on how to properly care for the console. And here is why this is an I don't work here story. My final shift had just ended. I was no longer an employee, and I turned in my lanyard. The manager, who I was on great terms with, asked me to mind the store for 20 minutes as she needed to empty the registers to make a bank deposit. This was an hour before the banks closed, and the morning rush had been very insane. I readily agreed as I was helping a friend. However, her bank run took nearly 50 minutes, which I was expecting, and they get rushed near the end of day. Cast OP equals me, MF manager friend, not what you were thinking, EK entitled Karen, NK nice kid, Fred security, Greg previously fired D-bag employee. Now on with the main story. I'm in the store totally alone, and decided to reorganize the PS2 shelves, as customers usually can't tell that it was alphabetized before they started putting things back wherever they felt like. The shelves were along the back wall, which allowed the front entrance to stay in my peripheral vision. In walks what I now know to be a Karen. Cheap gold jewelry that makes a racket I can't even describe, typical haircut, knockoff shoes, resting bitch face, and with as much plastic on her body as a Barbie doll. Don't get me wrong, I'm male. The right kind of surgery can really get my attention. She looked like a first year did her work. She has a large plastic bag in hand, which she thunks down on the counter hard enough to dent the cheap wood top. I notice she has about a 9-year-old behind her. The following conversation begins. Can I help you? Note, I had already turned in my lanyard and I never received store-specific clothing. So I'm wearing a black button-down shirt, black slacks, black belt, and black sneakers. Hey, I'm overweight. I like black. Very slimming.
Yes, I want you to exchange this console for a new one. It stopped working.
I actually don't work.
I don't care if it's your department or not. Get over here and help me.
Let me take a look and see what I can do.
Fine, but I haven't got all day.
Do you have the receipt? So at this point she hands over the receipt, which is badly faded. But I figure out the console was picked up on release day, November 22nd. This was February 20th. Further, on inspecting the console, I notice a square spot directly under it that is sagged and very shiny. I notice EK is looking at the price drop Elite console bundle at the front, and NK is standing nearby, so I call him over. Hey kiddo, is this your console? Can you tell me where you normally keep it?
In the big room.
With the couches and stuff?
Uh-huh.
Tell me, is there a vent in there where the cold and hot air comes out?
Yeah, but the game covers it up. Mama says it gets too hot in that room.
At this point, I'm facepalming. EK decided to use a $400 box of hot electronics to plug a heat vent. No wonder it stopped working and started to melt. Also in the bag are 3 other games besides Halo, all scratched to hell and back. I call over EK. I'm sorry, this console is way past our return period, and as the reason it stopped working was due to negligence, the manufacturer likely won't fix it either, but I can... Just when I was about to offer my personal services, I was cut off.
The fuck you lazy piece of shit? Just exchange it for another one. That Elite bundle over there costs less than what I paid for this.
The price had just dropped.
So I'll take that, and replace those games while you're at it.
Now, I no longer worked at this store. In hindsight, I should have closed the doors, but with my knowledge of games, I was hoping to at least have some people ready to check out for MF when she returned. However, EK really pushed my buttons and I snapped. Lady, you are obviously very stupid. Her face started getting that lovely color of cherry red. First, our return policy is 15 days. Anything past that is the manufacturer's problem. Secondly, you used a sensitive piece of electronics to block a heat vent. You were lucky your house didn't burn down. Third, you bought a mature-rated game for an underage child, something we can be fined up to $5,000 for. Fourth, you were just very rude to the only person in this town who could have actually helped you out. No, I am not inclined to. Get out.
You can't talk to me that way. Give me your corporate number. I'm going to report you and get you fired.
At this point, I figure, what the hell, I've already finished working here. So I write down the corporate number on a piece of printer paper, and then an idea struck me. A few weeks back, we had a new seasonal guy who was just terrible. Rude with customers, knew nothing about what he was selling, and bossed others around. So I wrote his employee ID number on there. I only remember it because he forced everyone to memorize it to pump his subscription stats, even though he never sold a single one. EK is screaming at me the whole 2 minutes it takes for me to write all this down. Fred comes running up the front like a murder was going on. What the hell's going on here?
This employee was extremely rude and tried to assault me. Arrest him.
Is this true, OP? Nope. You know where the camera computer is. Take a look. The last 12 minutes should do it.
Camera?
Do I really need to take a look at that footage, or will you calm down? She is to be escorted from the building. Here is that information you requested. Have a nice day.
I'll have your job for this.
And stomps out, practically dragging the poor kid behind her. Fred returns about 7 minutes later. WTF was that all about, OP? Grab us some coffee and I'll tell you once MF gets back. Oh, grab her one too. So Fred grabs 3 coffee and returns when MF walks in about 10 minutes later. Spots the console on the counter, EK left it behind, and gives me that You have a good story, don't you, Luke? I recount the whole thing. MF is getting more horrified by the second, while Fred is practically rolling on the floor with laughter. At this point, I remind MF that I am already not an employee, and if it gets her out of hot water, she can say she already fired Greg. What does Greg have to do with this? Well, as you can imagine, the lady was rather peeved. I would think so. And asked me for the corporate number and my name, so I gave her the number and Greg's employee ID number. It took almost a minute for that last bit to sink in, but MF busted out laughing. Well, Greg was a turd, but that was so wrong. What do you plan to do with the stuff she left? OP, can you fix that? Very likely, why? She turns to Fred. I don't see anything on the counter. Now the ropes were turned on me. It took me a full minute to realize what she just said, so I quietly bundled up the whole mess, took it home. Turned out the only thing it needed was a new capacitor, which my brother installed, I suck at soldering, and a new fan. Ran great for years. Used my CD polisher to fix the games too. All in all, about a $550 severance package. I only remember all this because she had me recount the tale to any new employees for years. It is burned very well into my memory. And the lesson here? Be kind. The person you are talking to may be your only hope. 5. Keep in mind this was about 6 years ago. At the time I was the assistant manager at a discount shoe store. Okay, so I'm working checkout, and a woman comes up talking on her phone. I asked her the standard checkout questions and told her total. This happened years ago, but I think the total was roughly $22. She handed me $40 in cash, and I handed her the change. $18. She took her stuff and left, and never hung up the phone and never counted her change. She went shopping at a big box superstore that was located next door. There she spent the change I gave her, then came back to my store and accused me of screwing up her change. She kept holding her receipts up and adding them together, and kept repeating she's $5 short. At least this time she wasn't on her phone while talking to me. Keep in mind she did not count her change. She shoved the cash in her purse and left the store and spent more money somewhere else. The money could have fallen out of her purse on the walk over to the superstore, or the other cashier could have screwed up. There are a lot of variables to the situation. After she talked to me like an idiot, I maintained my cool and advised her that we will figure it out, and reminded her to be patient. I called our store's customer service center to see what they would advise us do in this situation. The thing is, this was a small store and only had one register. According to the corporate rep I spoke with, I needed to take the customer's information and close the register at the end of the night, as usual, because we could not close a register during business hours. If the cash count was over by $5, then I did screw up her change and we would call her in the morning to come and pick up her money. Well, according to this woman, I was stealing from her if I didn't give her the $5. I repeated that this is the corporate policy and I had no control. So she did what any good Karen would do and called the cops. At this point, she sat in the corner and was making more phone calls, swearing about her thief of a cashier. All the while, I had to keep checking out customers. Gotta love being short-staffed. So the cops show up, and she rambles on about how I stole her $5, and she is just waving her receipts around, like this is concrete evidence. The cop looks her right in the eye and says, "Why didn't you count your change?" This obviously wasn't what she wanted to hear. She wanted me to leave there in handcuffs. By this point, tears are streaming down my face, and the cop comes to talk to me. I told him what corporate said, and he told me to follow their direction. He took the basic information he needed and left. But he was on my side and gave his contact info. The woman reluctantly gave me her information to call her in the morning, and the cop left the store. So we closed the store that night, and I counted the cash at least 10 times, and guess what? We were $20 short. Another issue is we had an employee who we suspected of stealing, and every shift she worked, exactly $20 went missing. Like I said, there were a lot of variables here. Since $20 was missing, I knew I had indeed given her the correct change. This Karen was going to have to suck up the fact that she lost her own money. But I wanted my manager to recount the cash and be the one to call her the next morning, like she would have believed me anyways. She took the news badly and made a corporate complaint. Luckily, we had calls and police documents to back everything up. There were no ramifications for me. It was an awful stressful night, but hey, at least I got a good story out of it. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, number 79. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I gotta say, in regards to the last story there, that's pretty much the standard procedure for most stores when an accusation of shortchanging has been made, of a significant accusation of shortchanging. The place I worked in actually had 4 tills, so what they could do is, it doesn't take long to count a till, they could take it off in the middle of the shift, so that was possible to do that. And it happened a few times in my time working there. Gotta say, more often than not, no, people had just been irresponsible with their money. Now, to be clear, it was occasionally my fault, and when it was, the person got the money back, I apologized, and that was generally that. There were a few occasions where people had just mishandled their money. I remember one person literally threw their money away. They'd been given, it was like a £5 note, I believe, and a receipt with it. I always handed the person the receipt with their change, because, you know, got to have a receipt. And this was back in the days before they said ask someone if they want a receipt, because they were trying to save the paper, I guess. But I was given the change with the receipt, and this person had thrown the receipt away with their money. And they initially come back in, so you didn't give him a change? I was like, yeah, I did. No, you didn't. And I said, well, you threw something in the bin when you walked out, because I happened to have noticed him do that. I did give you the receipt and the money together, and they were about to argue, but I think they thought maybe I should go check, and I believe it was high enough at the top of the bin, they were able to get it back in that case. Okay, and I think we'll wrap things up there, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.